Hey everybody, so on this video I'm talking about what is the difference between our Bible and the New World Translation for the Jehovah's Witness Bible. Are there a lot of differences? Is it significant? Does it really matter? Well, you tell me. Let's take a look. So I want to just talk about a few points here about the New World Translation of the Jehovah's Witness Bible. A couple things here that we're going to go over are John 1:1, the whole was God versus was a God. We're going to go into this, and Colossians 1:16, this whole thing about removing Sheol, Hades, and Gehenna, and the stake instead of a cross. I'm actually going to go into a little bit more detail on that in the next video, but we're going to talk a little bit about it today. So their claim about the New World Translation. They claim that it is a translation of the scripture directly from the Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek into modern-day English. It is actually an anonymous work done by a committee of anointed witnesses of Jehovah. This is their claim of the New World Bible Translation Committee. The anonymity claim is that it gives God the credit for the work. This keeps translators actually from being accountable for their errors, though, if you really think about it. If nobody knows who actually translated it, this keeps real scholars from checking their academic credentials. So how can we really know what these people know and what they don't know, and how accurate their version really is? So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that this is really to give God the credit for their work? Or do you think that it's because they're a cult and they really don't want people finding out that it's nonsense? I think the latter. So, okay. So John 1:1. The NIV version says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." If you look up any translation or version of our Bible, this is what it says. It doesn't ever say anything else, right? But if you look in the New World Translation in the Jehovah's Witness Bible, it says, "In the beginning, the Word was with God, and the Word was a God, little g." So they're taking like position away from Jesus's deity. They're putting him as a lesser god, as a little god, and they're taking they're taking that title away from him of being God. So that's what they're doing here. So let's go a little bit more in depth about this. Okay, yeah, so the purpose was of them doing this was to support the notion that Jesus is not God Almighty, but a lesser God. And in Colossians 1:16, in the NIV, it says, "For him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him," right? This is giving Jesus all the glory. But if you go in the New World Translation, it actually says, "Because of means of him, all things were created in the heavens and on earth, the things visible and the things invisible, whether they are thrones or lordships or governments or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him." So they changed that beginning part. They said, "because of means of him," right? So they insert the word other, despite it being completely absent from the original Greek. So it's that word, it's not a translation error, it's actually just not even there. They just go ahead and add it in there. They just threw it on in because they wanted to support their theology. So the purpose of this is to support the notion that Christ was created and to deny the Trinity. So that's why they changed this verse. That's why they did that. Okay, so another thing that they've done is they've removed the words Sheol, Hades, and Gehenna. This was changed due to their non-belief in hell. They only believe in annihilation. They claim the word hell is the same as the grave. So when I looked it up on the JW website, I looked this up to see what the deal was, and this is what they claim, that it's actually just all these words are just words for the grave, that they're not the words for hell. None of these words are for hell, that's all that they're for. And so I was like, okay, so what about the man who asked Lazarus for a drink and to warn his brothers about this place when he's in hell, right? I was like, well, what about that? So I looked it up on their website, and they said, oh, this is not a real place. This is just a parable. Okay, well then what was the purpose of Jesus even telling this parable then? If this is not a real place. I mean, Jesus talks about hell more than he talks about heaven. He talks about it a lot in the Gospels. So this is something to consider. And then I also thought about, what about Matthew 25:41? Then he will also say to those on the left, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. It says eternal fire. It doesn't say like they're just going to go be burned and they're going to be burned up and that's it. It says eternal fire, like it's going to keep burning eternally. What about that? So I don't know. I'm not sure where they get that from. So this is what I found, and then I decided to look up, the definitions of, Sheol, Hades, and Gehenna in the Greek and in the Hebrew, and to see if this was actually true what they were claiming. Because when I do search into somebody else's religion, when I look into other religions, I look into their claims to see if they're false or not. Because just because it's what I think or what I know, it doesn't necessarily mean maybe they have some truth to it. Who knows? I wanted to know. I said, well, let me see if there's any truth to what they're saying. So this is what I found. So I found, I went into Logos Bible software, and I went and looked up the Greek and the Hebrew. It's really easy. You can do it yourself. You can look up all that stuff without Logos. You can go to Bible Hub or Blue Letter Bible. You can go to all those places. You can look up all that stuff if you want to. So Gehenna, this was a place of burning or torment, which is the equivalent of hell. Oh yeah, I looked up in the Bible dictionaries too. You can look up all that stuff. All this stuff is like free online. Okay, so it says Gehenna is the place of burning or torment, which is the equivalent of hell as described in Jewish apocryphal literature. It is not regarded as eternal punishment, but a place where the wicked are punished until the day of resurrection. Then all will be judged. Okay, so that's Gehenna. Hades is, the definition was correct, abode of all the dead, or the abode of the wicked dead. In Greek mythology, Hades referred to the god of the underworld, a dark land where the dead existed. So, I mean, it's kind of both. It's like the place of the dead, could be the grave, but it also says a dark land where the dead exist. So, I mean, it also sounds like a place where bad people go, right? That have died. Okay, Sheol, this is a little bit different. It means a ravine, a chasm, underworld, the world of the dead, a hollow space underneath the earth where the dead are gathered in. So, I mean, it doesn't necessarily say they're in a bad place, but it's just kind of, it's a place. It's a place where they go. Hell, the definition here, was a place of future punishment for the lost, unrepentant, and wicked dead. Furnace of fire, eternal... I had looked up definition. Yeah, this is some of the stuff I found. Furnace of fire, eternal fire, outer darkness, a place of weeping and torment. Matthew and Mark's gospel describe it as the unquenchable fire. And keep in mind that Matthew was a Jewish man, so this concept must not have been something foreign to him. So keep that in mind. Does the Watchtower have evidence for its translation claims? So, actually, no. Only their theological bias. That is the only evidence they have for the claim. The translation is inconsistent and it's heretical. Even when Bible translators make minor mistakes, so keep that in mind. You could say, oh, well, Bible translators change stuff sometimes and make mistakes and whatever. But But the New World Translation actually intentionally changes the text to conform to their own theology. So this is what they're doing. So yeah, I mean, you can see that with the whole things about hell and Hades and Gehenna and all those kind of places. This, it doesn't rule out that there's a burning place, an eternal fire. And again, here are my sources that you can take a look. Like I said, you can go, you don't have to have logos to look up these things. You can go to Bible Hub and find lots of stuff there if you want to look up some of the definitions that I had there. But really, I mean, this whole thing is, it's not good. It's not good, and it's heretical to the traditional Christian faith and what we know and what we've always known. This is not, if you have a friend or a family member that's in this, it's not something you want to continue to see them going into. You want to try to show them the truth, pull them out of that, and, tell them the truth of what the word really says, because technically they're in like a cult. That's what they're in, basically. We can talk another time about how to do that and the best way to do that, things you can show them to try to get them out of that mindset. But it's very, very hard, because remember, in cults, these are communities and they tend to shut them out from the rest of the world. So it's a very hard thing to walk away sometimes, because you're losing everybody that you're losing your entire community. So keep that in mind. Just telling somebody this, it might not be enough. But yeah, I won't go too much into that on this video. We'll talk about that another time. But yeah, so these are the differences in the New World Translation versus all the other Bible translations. Like I said, go to Bible Hub and look up, verses, and you could see like 100 translations there, and they're all the same. Like you can look at what every single one says for each verse, and you're not going to find any that say the same thing in John 1:1 as the New World Translation or the Colossians verse. So keep those things in mind. It is different. It is not something we should use. So like and subscribe for Women for Theology for more videos on theology and different religions. And, this is something that I just want to get out to everybody so people can know and not be deceived.